A very lovely April evening to everybody. I'm nursing a little bit of a cold, so you'll have to pardon how my voice sounds, or at least how I imagine it must sound. So you can see we've got a partially submerged boardwalk through the bog here. We're going to go look at a couple things real quick, just because even though, we're about maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month out from a lot of the stuff in here, going off, pitcher plants, rhododendrons, vaccinium, all manner of different interesting ericaceous plants, and in fact, quite a while before, your carnivorous Drosera, your sundew and bladderworts emerge. There's some pretty interesting stuff to go look at, including one of the most key components of northeastern bog fen, and in fact, not even just northeastern. It's a circumboreal plant. We'll go take a look at it in a second. That should be in full bloom right now. It was in bloom when I came by maybe a week, 10 days ago, just starting. Should be peaking to even getting close to wrapping up. And hit the ground running this year, getting a lot of these videos in April, early on in the year, where historically, I kind of really would find my footing, hit my stride around May, which is colloquially known as wildflower season around these parts, though of course ecology and nature and even botany don't necessarily take a break just because it's cold out. And with a particularly warm and mild winter we had this year, lots of interesting stuff emerging, and we still got a whole week to go in the month. So anyway, without any further whatever you want to call it, go look and see what's going on in here before prime time, we'll say. So let's take a look. We're going to walk through this gray birch and red maple swamp here, and actually I'll point out something rather interesting too. Even though this is completely inundated, as we progress further into the actual bog, I say bog, this is technically a fen. As we progress further in, you'll see that the water level actually kind of falls away around us as we get into the the peat and the sphagnum. But I gotta mind my footsteps through here. I'll check in with you in a second. Okay, so I hope this translates, but as we've come into the actual fen here, what's happened is we get this nice. I almost lost my camera there. 1 second there. God dang. Okay, so as we've come down into the fen, kind of leaving the swamp on the outskirts of it, you can see a lot of this sedge here has mounded up on top of peat moss and just the mat of actual undecaying plant matter underneath all of this. Got Sarracenia purpurea here, pitcher plant. These are evergreen plants, though they tend to go into dormancy. I grow these. These are looking a lot better than the ones I've got right now. Of course, all this pitcher is just a modified trap to ensnare insects, and typically you'll actually notice very few of them will have insects in them. They're not terribly efficient at doing what they do. Of course, some of these pitchers here are absolutely massive. Go around the corner. Last time I was here, I actually saw some of these just germinating. Looking at the condition of these, kind of begs the question. Oh, geez, I really hope I didn't kill mine. First time growing them, they just germinated at the beginning of the year, but they're still hanging on for now. I think they'll be okay. Eriophorum is the order, so this actually is in the same order as a lot of these cool plants in Ericaceae, the blueberry family, that grow down in this fen and bog type habitat. This guy won't be blooming until May, next month. Sends up a really cool looking flower, and I'll be coming back, and I'm just going to do a general bog in bloom video, which I actually shot last year, and accidentally deleted the footage. So Sarracenia purpurea, that's a great one. I know this one always gets everybody all riled up. They love seeing this one, and it is indeed one of my favorite plants. I've grown it from seed, and hopefully I don't kill the handful of individuals that I've managed to grow. But let's go see what else we got. So this is the inflorescence. Oops. So this is the inflorescence of all that sedge you see around. This is Eriophorum vaginatum. This is, tussock sedge. I think it goes by a couple different common names. Pretty wide distribution. I can't remember if it's like circumarctic or whatever's going on there. But these are those are the flowers right there. You could probably just barely make out what I imagine are anthers. Hang on, maybe we can get a better example down over here. This one's not quite as far along. So Sarracenia is the family. You might think that's a grass, but that's not. Those are sedges. And I'm just trying to see if there's any good anthers left on the guy here. Yeah, this one down there. So that dumps out the pollen. Pollen sticks in a stigma. You get a little grain in there. A little, is it caryopsis? Is that the actual true botanical name for a grain? And then later on in the summer, these continue to rise up out of the ground. And they make these big truffle tree looking poof balls that are absolutely delightful to look at. Looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss novel. But, walking through it might be easy to assume this is just some nondescript grass, but it's actually a highly, specialized plant. Here's a nice bunch of it right there. Highly specialized plant to the bog, fen, whatever you want to call it, ecosystem. And much like the pitcher plant, which uses modified leaves to trap its prey, and Drosera, which uses modified leaves to trap its prey, this guy's got a whole other, whole host of fungal associations that it employs to help it out. Specialized mushrooms down there in the soil and whatnot, making it so that it's able to capitalize in a actually relatively open, harsh environment, of which bogs and fens generally are. We're going to go around the corner in a second, but actually, here's what I came out to show you. Pardon the terrible zoom there. Yeah, there you go. Let me put the camera down. So, this guy is pretty much peaking right now. This is Chamaedaphne calyculata, leatherleaf. It gets its name from these tough, evergreen, alternate leaves here. Pretty typical for a lot of Ericaceae. Some of them shed their leaves, some of them don't. And little urceolate, which just a fancy term for urn-shaped, which is synapomorphy, a shared trait amongst many members of the family Ericaceae. Basically, they look like blueberry flowers because, they're not too distant relative of blueberry. Nice little, would you call that, a raceme of flowers there. Fruits on them are just tiny little woody capsules. Barely make it through May, to be honest. And yeah, like I was saying, I believe you get this in Eurasia too. Monotypic genus, no other relatives in its genus, only species. But this is just an absolute staple of these northeastern bog, fen, whatever you want to call them, habitats. Does not really tend to do well with any semblance of shade. I mean, these ones are kind of coming up in between, rhododendrons and some other growth. But they really, you'll see what I mean. I'll go show you. It's just like a swath of green when you actually get out into the middle of this area, and it's pretty easy to see what they're doing. So we'll take a second look at this in a second. I'll show you in its full glory, and it's getting crowded out. Not in a necessarily destructive way, just in a natural succession of species by a nice rhododendron canadense here, the rhodora, also a staple of this and similar habitats of the region, and also Ericaceae, and also a plant that I've had the privilege and a pleasure to grow from seed. That one we're not doing so well on, but we're going to come back next month and we'll be able to see these guys in their full glory, because I mean, they're in videos in the past, but never maybe 1 or 2 flowers on 1 or 2 individuals. To see a whole, hedge lit up with them is really quite something. Yeah, it's a nice patch of Eriophorum right there. Those are flowers. Grasses, sedges, rushes, graminoids, they got flowers too, and they just, might not be immediately recognizable to you as flowers. These things look hilarious when they set their seed and they, they're ready to be distributed. The little winged tufts, or the hairy tufts, really do help the seed get around. You can see on this rhododendron here's so a lot of the air cakes, you get the dry capsules instead of the berries, but that's what those fruits from last year look like. Like a little green, almost looks like a little green, like papaya-shaped, tiny papaya-shaped fruit, but then it dries out into a woody capsule and dehisces its absolutely diminutive seeds out in that way. Anything else right in this corner before we should move on? I don't think so. Yeah, you can see. General form factor of Chamaedaphne. It's a nice plant, it really is. And then here's what I'm talking about when I talk about the sphagnum. Notice how we're not inundated with water over here, despite the fact that we are, indeed getting closer to a body of water. Anyway, I'll cut this off for now. We'll go see it again. I got maybe 2 other things to show you. We should get out of here. It's already kind of late in the evening, and it's pretty chilly. Yeah, so when you look out across the open section of this wetland, you can see all this greenery. That's all Chamaedaphne calyculata. Really, really is a dominant and important plant in these types of habitats. And I don't have to go on a whole, give you my whole thesis statement and, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't need to give you the entire detailed rundown of what's going on in habitats like this. Just know the general principle of these types of habitats is you've got a very waterlogged, very difficult, very oftentimes, at least in the case of this particular body of water, if you could even call it that, acidic. Sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you get a very basic, calcareous fen. Two very important, 2 very special types of habitats to get into. I digress. This one is highly acidic, and it's obviously very challenging for quote-unquote normal plants to grow. And of course, you get some tough bastards like pitch pine can hack it. There's black spruce in here too, can hack it too. Growing very, very stunted. But functionally, what you need to understand here is it's difficult to grow substrate. A lot of these plants have some pretty impressive adaptations to growing within them, like the pisher plants and the sundews, which I already mentioned. And then others of them really just need this sort of undisturbed full sun so they can tolerate this substrate no problem. They put all their effort into doing that, and all they ask for in return, in a lot of cases, is completely unrestricted access to the sun. And I mean, you can see these things just get baked in sun all day. I'm going to switch my camera back over to the macro mode. I'll show you a nice good set of flowers we got on this guy over here. Hey, there you go, you sick, twisted, I don't need to use profanity. I don't really feel like it right now, but if you wanted to hear it, you sick, twisted fuck. There you go. That's a nice golden hour money shot of Chamaedaphne calyculata. Chamaedaphne would be appearing to be Daphne, which recently came and, became familiar with Dirca palustris, which I believe, the Ameliaceae, that family, Daphne, the genus Daphne, is actually in. So I wonder if what they're referring to is maybe what the actual flowers look like, or the early April bloom time, because Dirca palustris, that was the first video we got in back at the beginning of the month, it is what it is. This also, same thing going on. Early bloomer, remarkably short-lived flowers. These ones are actually still getting ready. Most of these, if you believe me, have already dropped off of the plants. This patch is still going strong here, but plenty of these appear to have nothing but withered flowers on them, are already starting to put out, some form of that little dried dehiscent fruit. So anyway, Chamaedaphne calyculata. What does the calyculate come from? I'll never just search that word. You know, I'm still warming up for the season. You guys got to cut me some slack here. But you know, you ever really want to get out of your one-on-ones at work? If you're like me, which you know, no offense, I don't always want to. Sometimes you got to do it if you want to. You got to put the work in. You got to communicate. But sometimes the conversations peter out and they get a little weird. You can get a little dicey. Just take up an interest in botany or any real biological science, earth science, geology, you know, any of the stuff that a lot of people don't really give a shit about. Take up an interest in that and start telling your coworkers about it. Develop a reputation quite quickly, and it'll you know, keep a lot of people out of your office. I keep a few plants on my desk just to you know, keep me somewhat sane. I'm not really a big house plant guy, but you know, I grow the pitcher plants. I like carnivorous plants. Cacti or something you don't really get a lot of in the Northeast, so I have mostly invested my portfolio in cacti that I can't readily go out to see in habitat, and most of the plants native to New England, you know, don't really grow well inside. I mean, you can grow a pitcher plant inside, but as I was alluding to earlier, they don't really seem to be liking it. I'll be moving them outside and seeing if they bounce back. I digress. Start talking about botany. Start talking about Chamaedaphne calyculata, and you know, weird, difficult to grow on substrates, and you know, synapomorphies like ursulate corollas in the family Ericaceae. It's incredible how many plants are about to be in bloom in this bog that are going to have flowers like this. Huckleberries got flowers like this. Blueberries got flowers like this. Cranberries look a little bit different. The Calmias look different. Andromeda's got flowers like this. Pieris has flowers like this. Fetterbush, whatever the hell they call it. It's you know, you start getting into that stuff, which I mean I find remarkably fascinating, and it helps me connect the dots of the natural world. And indeed, the concept of synapomorphies relates very closely to the concept of systematics and taxonomy. But we don't have to get into all that right this second. This is more just a PSA on why you should come out. So even if it's like I come out here all the time, but for 2 or 3 years I didn't come out before. Like the very first time I came out here, it was June. I missed most of the stuff being in bloom even, and then you know, in subsequent years I'd come earlier and earlier. Never got to see this going off until last year, and it would have made it into a video, but like I said, that footage actually got deleted. My SD card corrupted. I digress to make a long-winded rant, effectively wrapped up here. You should come out to habitats, even if you think you know what's going on, and you're just like, yeah, I got that location wrapped around my thumb, wrapped around my pinky finger. You never really know what you might be missing or what you can see, and you should study plants in different stages of phenology too. You should see a plant, you know, defoliated in winter with the winter buds. If it's, you know, if it's deciduous, you should see a plant flower. You should see it go to fruit. You should see it in the fall when it's dying back. Again, if it's deciduous. All important things to know and get firsthand appreciation of. And, you know, sometimes they're quite lovely, like this plant here. Let's go see if we can see a red maple flower. And then maybe the Amelanchier is blooming. There's an Amelanchier somewhere in here, and it wasn't blooming a couple weeks ago or 10 days ago, whenever the hell I came here last. But it might be now. So we'll go take a look. It's probably somewhat hard to make out on the camera, but if you come over, I came over to this side where it's a bit shadier, and these are all still. Come here. These are all still going off full bloom over here. That's an impressive. It's an impressive display, if you ask me. But whatever. Already got our whole spiel. You get the idea. These are great. A lot of times, you know, if I'm here and I'm really manhandling these flowers, I can't tell you how many times I picked one of these up. Little bugs fall out of them. This is what these guys need this time of year. People are wondering, how are there so many bugs out? When, you know, most of my flowers aren't even up yet out of my garden. Well, if you pay attention to the native plants, they're coming to areas like this. The bugs know it's here. A shame that more people don't know it's here as well. Hey, well, I'll show you this too. I almost forgot that I could show you this. This is the emerging new growth from Larix laricina, the tamarack tree, a deciduous conifer. You know, down there in the south, you guys have your bald cypresses, your taxodium, and then up here in the north, we have our tamaracks, our larix. I guess they call them, you know, larches out there in Europe. You got a few species out west, you got a species in Europe, maybe a species in Asia. I'm not too sure how many species of Larix there are, just Larix laricina out here in the east. Though these are, you know, similar to the, well, actually not similar to the pitch pine, but similar to the black spruce, kind of just out, which are above us, kind of just hanging on, much more northern trending tree. This is disjunct for it to be down here. Although, of course, much like I was taught, I spoke the same way about Thuja occidentalis a couple years ago, and I was in fact mistaken. It does occur much farther south. Just you've got to go west first, west and then south. So maybe I'll put up the range map. Maybe you get this. You know, further south into the west of us here. But, you know, by and large, here in New England, this is odd to see it this far south. You go up like northern Vermont, you go New Hampshire, especially if you're like north of the White Mountains. The issue is this tree for us, Larix laricina, doesn't really seem to like the montane stuff as much as it likes like the moist open meadows and, you know, habitats like this. It doesn't seem to really do well. Doesn't seem to really do well in the alpine stuff. At least I've never seen it. I could be mistaken. But you'll see it like go to like a nice meadow, like in the Northeast Kingdom, where I was last July. These are like decent sized trees up there, and they kind of take over. I don't know where I was going with that thought, but they do well in their specific niche. Yeah, you can see right here. It's one of those black spruces, Picea mariana. This will do very well in the alpine setting. In fact, a lot of what makes up the alpine forests of New England is, in fact, black spruce, balsam fir. Maybe you get some red spruce, and then you get your really hardy birches. And then here's this other guy. Here's the pitch pine, Pinus rigida. There's that pollen cone, or the candle. This is the emergent. This would be what the new needles come from. And then I'm guessing, I can only guess, got a female cone forming there. I gotta get better. I used to be pretty darn good figuring out where the male cones were, what the female cones were. Maybe these are the male cones. No. Pollen cones look a little different than this. I'm off my game with the pines. I went hard with the pines when I was first getting into this, and then I kind of lost interest. But Pinus rigida, pitch pine, this exact individual has made an appearance in a couple videos. I always really like it. Oh, the pollen cones are coming out. It's gonna not really translate, but they're gonna come out from the base here. That's one of them right there. And obviously the female cones are gonna will hold the seed. Are all conifers monoecious? Or no, they get dioecious conifers too. Are there any bisexual conifers? I don't think so. I think they're all either monoecious or dioecious. Yeah, the pollen, it's just not ready yet. How about that? Well, it's a little too late to see the red maple flowers, Acer rubrum. Those are the last few of them that I seen, just withering up. Those are the male flowers. You can see the little styles hanging off of them. Usually, or styles, the little stamens hanging off of them, withering up. Just wrapping up the male flowers, and yeah, 5 petals, 5 stamens. Red maples have a pretty standard floral morphology, all things considered. Acer spicatum's got some beautiful flowers on it. It's a lot easier to see. I got the tripod all the way stretched up right now, so hopefully you can hear my obnoxious voice. But yeah, that's about it for Acer rubrum. I think we were a little too late. It's an early bloomer. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, trees got flowers? Yeah, of course trees have flowers. They got flowers or cones. Or I guess if you're a tree fern, you've got spores. You're reproducing somehow. you know, 99.99% of the time. There's another bigger red maple back there. Really prolific plant. Red maples can form nice swamp stands. A tree that I really didn't, I mean, maples, I guess. I like, you know, sugar maple. I avoid talking about that. I just feel like it's such an overrated plant in the region. It's like sugar maple and blueberry. I talk about blueberry, but I don't really get into them. It's so commonly associated with New England. But red maple, you know, that's a super widespread species. Grows in swamps up here. Grows in swamps down in Florida. Obviously different ecotype. But yeah, it's got little red flowers on it before it leaves out. Shame, if I had come by them like 2 weeks ago. You can see there's another set of them up there. Those ones still look good. I just got swarmed by a bunch of weird bugs. It's kind of, you know, forgot what that was like over the winter. But yeah, whatever. They're pretty simple. They get male and female flowers. I'll have to look it up. I forget. Are they dioecious? Are they monoecious? For a recap, dioecious, you get two different plants. They could be two different sexes. You get monoecious, you get male and female flowers on the same plant. Actually, I'm looking up over here now. I see a bunch of those red maples are still in bloom. Let's see if we can find one. I'll spare you the details. I'll just show you a good close-up shot of one if I can get it. And then you get bisexual flowers or perfect flowers, which have both. You know, they're hermaphroditic, which means they just get the male and female parts on the same flower. The same flower giving the pollen is also capable of being pollinated and developing a fruit. Which on maples is a little winged samara, very famous. But as I was saying, yeah, just a couple New England plants. I just always feel like I'm letting it down. Of course, you get dozens of species of blueberry. There's not just one species of blueberry. And cranberry is in that same genus too, vaccinium. So I don't know. Maybe this will be the year I do a plant spotlight on like highbrush blueberry, vaccinium, corymbosum, or something. But let's get out of here. Let's go see. Maybe we'll get lucky. We'll be able to get a shot of the maple flowers. And if not, I bid you adieu. Okay, my camera's going to be shaking because I got to put this above my head, but at the very least, you get a sense of what's going on there. Just flop out of that little bud. Get a few flowers in there. Nice plump anthers at the end of those stamens. But zoom in a bit more, I think. Can I? No, I can't. That's as much as I got, baby. You get in there. Oops. No stigma, style, or ovary. You know, if they're monoecious, they got the female flowers on the same tree, because I'm only seeing what I think are males. Sometimes what they do is female flowers will be higher up, you can't really see them, and then alternatively they put them out at different times. You know, sunflowers will do that. They call it being protandrous. You put out your male parts first, or your male flowers first, and then you become receptive to pollen, or you put out your female flowers second. You know, sunflowers will do that. They'll have the little, you know, that little stigma, because they do secondary pollen presentation, will flop out, you know, present the pollen, gets all dusted off, and then they're ready to receive some pollen. No clue what the maples are doing, though. I'll have to look that up. I'll get back to you. That's okay. See, this is why, you know, yeah, this guy's still got a ton of flowers on them. They're on their way out, though. This is what I mean when I say come out multiple times, because if you walk away with more questions than answers, hopefully you get your answers, but if you walk away with questions and answers, you're kind of doing the whole thing right, aren't you? This one's still pretty juicy. Little maple flowers, they smell like anything? They don't. They gotta be offering some sort of reward, though. Maple flowers can be kind of showy, you know? Especially the freaking goddamn Norway maple. Not that I really care too much about that plant at all. Alright, let's get out of here. It's getting cold. You know, I gotta learn to shut my yap when I don't know if I'm ready to end a video. Coming up under a very very impressive pitch pine laden with cones, we found a lady red maple. That is Acer rubrum right there, and these are the female flowers. Again, you'll have to excuse me, I'm really going to make better use of the tripod here. These ones look better. Better use of the tripod this year, but some of these shots are really difficult to do. So you can see bifid stigma, and what that's doing is it's going down. And if you ever see maple fruits on the tree, yeah, those are those samaras starting to form. How absolutely interesting is that? So evidently they must be dioecious, unless this guy had male flowers on it before they all dropped off. That's what's going to receive the pollen. That pollen's going to make a little pollen tube. It's going to travel down that style, down into the ovary, and it, bifid. So probably 2 carpels in there, and maple fruits. They come in little pairs of 2. They come in little pairs of 2, and they break down along the seam right there. That is awesome. So they just hang right off the thing. They'll become little baby maples next year. Glad I kept looking for it. Not as showy as the male flowers, but they don't have to be. They don't always have to be. Just looking at it, I'm guessing maybe it's, I'll look it up, maybe it's wind pollinated. Or maybe they just got stuff going in there after the pollen, but I don't know. If they're going in after the pollen, why would they be going to the female flowers? Maybe they're wind pollinated. I'll have to look it up, or maybe they do have nectar. See? Ask yourself questions. If you leave without questions, I don't always think you're doing it right.